Chapter 2. The New Drug. Imagine my surprise when I realized what the fuck was going on. "Holy Christ!" I shouted. But what came out was more like a squawky, rattling shriek. I couldn't control my mouth and tongue, and I had no fucking teeth. I had no fucking teeth. The world was a cold, blurry cacophony, and I bawled like, yes, baby. I was uncontrollably angry, having a tantrum. Something was tugging on my stomach. Latex fingers passed me around. I was insane. And somehow, I found a moment of focus. I obviously was not a screaming, gore-covered 9-pound baby boy. I was a boy, right? What was probably happening was that back in the real world, I was in my death throes on my leather couch, puke running down my face and ruining my expensive shirt. I was not being wiped clean of a thick coating of placental goo and being swaddled in a warm blanket like a full-body tourniquet. I was not being weighed and measured. I was not being nestled into someone's warm, protective arms. I was clearly in the throes of a full-blown drug psychosis. Perhaps it was some new designer drug with a name like womb or rebirth, right? And it made you feel like you died and been reborn into a little bitty baby. That had to be it. Suddenly it was quiet. I'd stopped bawling. I couldn't see worth a damn. It was like being drunk with Vaseline in your eyes. Except without the drunk. My hearing was all a jangle, and my skin felt bathed in Novocaine. Vague, fuzzy, sight, sound, and touch happened in shapes without definition. And the smell. Never had my olfactory sense been so acute. 30 years of smoking had taken its toll on the old sniffer. That and, well, let's face it, the kilos of coke I'd snorted. But now I could smell with canine acuity. Pine sol, floral hand cleanser, sweat on a woman's skin, the smell of, aftershave? 2 aftershaves? There was a cheap jasmine perfume, and coffee with cream and sugar. I could smell blood and urine, and a hint of shit. I smelled 3 types of bad breath, and the minty fresh breath of someone chewing gum. I could even smell the cigarette someone had smoked. A cigarette. I would have killed for it. Killed, I say. I smelled the liquor from somebody's pores after a night's hard drinking. A man's drunk sour sweat. Probably the sweat of my new father in this increasingly vivid hallucination. And there was a curious sweet smell directly below me. I tried prying open my weak eyelids. Why couldn't I do it? As I wedged them open more, images were a burst of overexposed film. Colorless shapes bobbed before me. I realized the shapes were people looking down at me. I wanted to fend them off, but I couldn't lift my tiny, flaccid arms, leaden encumbrances without purpose. Minutes ago, before I injected myself with this new designer drug that I'm calling womb, I was a tallish, brawny white male who could break somebody in half with one well-placed roundhouse. Now, I was tiny and helpless. And I was pretty sure I was about to piss and shit myself. What a fucking nightmare. I hated this drug. I began crying again. I was lifted, passed around. Then I was back in my warm, swaddled arm crook. I liked it there, so I stopped crying. I managed to open my eyes a little more, and the blur sharpened, but I was seeing in black and white. Sound was also blurry, voices distorted. It sounded something like this. Male-sounding voice 1. "He looks like me." Male-sounding voice 2. "He does look like you." Female-like sounding voice coming from behind my head. "Dodge the bullet. Hoo!" There was a crash of noise that I'm pretty sure was laughter. Everyone sounded drunk. Female voice 1. He's probably hungry. Male sounding voice 1. Give him a tit. They sounded drunk, but it was me who was hearing drunk. All those little pieces of the ear, the cochlea, the vestibule, the stapes, and the something or other, along with a host of auditory nerves going to and coming from my baby brain, all that shit wasn't strong yet. So I had the ears of a drunk, which was apropos since I had the life of a drunk, albeit a highly functional drunk. The sardonic female voice coming from under me was my new mom, which made that pervasive, sweet smell her breast milk, my breast milk. And it hit me that the growing pain in my stomach was hunger. I was famished, but I couldn't turn my head. There was no fucking muscles in my neck. My body was a flopping paroxysm. So instead, I squirmed. My head, like my arms, was a useless leaden appendage. In my brain, I was making the words, "Please, someone, I'm so hungry," but in reality, I was croaking like a dying asthmatic cat. Somebody said something, and there was laughter. Weird, echoey laughter. They all knew what I wanted, it seemed. Mom turned me over. That smell was overpowering. Sweet. If the idea of love had a smell, this was it. Mother's milk. It was love. It was everything I ever wanted. It was my new heroine. That's what it was like. I had found my new heroine. And it was my own mother's milk. How convenient. I needed it. I had a brainless zombie desire that controlled my rubbery, boneless body. And I groped with my mouth and pried with useless fingers. And for the first time in living memory, I suckled a breast for the primary reason breasts exist. Sustenance. And when the milk passed through my gums, I heard radio waves, almost deafening, an orally synthetic response to the mother's milk. And it was Beethoven. All I could hear, shutting out the world, save for this warm nectar slurping past my gums, was the chorus to Ode and Fraud, Ode to Joy.